We got scrimmage notes. We got hoops portal chatter, and the Vandyboys, they dropped the series against Oklahoma. It's not good for them. We are live.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into this live edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton, and this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, were driven by the details. Highlights make the reel, but the work behind it makes them count. Stay tuned for this week's Moving the Game Forward, the all-new Mazda CX-5. More to move every side of you. On this episode, we're going to talk about baseball. Baseball might be in big trouble. Their streak of making regionals might be in jeopardy after dropping a home series against the Oklahoma Sooners. Got a couple interesting notes on the portal. Some guys that I'm hearing some buzz that might pop to Vandy soon, what they mean to this team, what they bring to Mark Byington's squad. I'll talk about that. But we're going to start with spring practice scrimmage number 2. It was a coach's dream. The energy was great. There was plays made on both sides of the ball. A lot of guys. I've seen a remarked difference in the level of talent and the roster for Vanderbilt and for Clark Lee. So this is going to be exciting. So let's jump right into it, shall we? So I was you can see that I'm a little bit sunburnt. And it was a really beautiful day here in Nashville, a beautiful day for a scrimmage at First Bank Stadium. I was on hand covering it with 24/7 and right here for Locked On as well. And it was, I mean, reading what I've been reading about the scrimmages and the practices and, just knowing how teams generally look in the spring, you go into it with a thought of, okay, there's going to be some things that are clunky. There's going to be some things that obviously look like they need some work. It's not going to be smooth, but that's not the feeling I got here. The feeling I got after I walked out on this scrimmage is, hey, I think Vandy, obviously they're not ready to play a game right now. They weren't preparing for anybody. They don't have a lot of positions and position battles settled yet. They don't have their starting offensive line, obviously. But for all of those factors, I thought this was about as good of a scrimmage as you could get. I mean, there were big plays on both sides of the ball. There were, all 4 quarterbacks looked great. You had some guys emerge in the receiving room. Defensively, those guys were flying around the football, making plays. All of that was incredible for this team, really. And it is something that when you're looking at, and like I said, we're live, so your comments, your questions, all that. When you're looking at things to kind of say, as you're going through, waiting for the 2026 season, waiting for the first game against Austin Peay, to get excited and get pumped up about Vanderbilt football, I think that's something that a lot of fans in the past just haven't been able to do, because you're just wondering if they're going to put a competitive team out there. Like coming off of 23, you were wondering if this was Clark Lee's last year, if, things had went so far south, are they beyond repair, things like that. Then you have a successful 2024 season with a bowl win. You've got a lot of guys coming back, including Diego Pavia. There's a lot of excitement there. And the 2025 season, last season, delivered in a huge way. So now there should be that buzz in the air, but I think everyone's still, because of all the losses, I think everyone's still kind of waiting to see. It's always kind of they can do it once. Can they repeat? And I'm here to tell you that I think they absolutely can. Based on what I saw today, I feel like this team is better than the 2025 team, depth-wise. I mean, yeah, Diego Pavia is gone. Eli Stowers is gone. Langston Patterson's gone. But there's a lot of new faces, but I think top to bottom, this might, I think Clark Lee was onto something when he said this was the deepest roster that he's ever had. And that's saying something because, again, this was a roster that was pretty dang good last year. But when you look at it from that perspective, guys have gotten better. They've had another year of training. It's just there's a lot of things in place that this team is going to be incredible. So the quarterback position was exciting. I thought those guys made some plays. Berlowitz and Curtis especially. Those two guys really stood out to me as far as the way they led the offense, as far as just how they operated within the scheme and within the system. So there's some separation going on with those two versus the other two, Jack Elliott and Whit Muschamp. And then there might be some separation between Curtis and Berlowitz. So I'll talk more about that probably as I marinate on that. I got to collect my thoughts and think about what I saw to really give you a great assessment of that. So you might have to stay tuned for a later episode on that. When I give you, this is kind of my sort of instant reaction, because it's not instant because I didn't do a show right at 1:00 this afternoon when I got home, but this is kind of still a bit of a instant reaction because it's the same day. But some things that stood out to me that I really liked. I was really, really impressed with Caleb Barnett. And I know people gave him a hard time about being tiny, but that dude is going to make a lot of plays. That dude is he's going to ball out for Vanderbilt. He's a guy that, he did it a year ago. And he did it being a freshman, being like 5'6", 145 pounds or something like that. He is small, but that dude straight gets after it. Ricardo Jones had another interception today. That dude's a machine, man. That might be him, and Brian Allen might be the two biggest additions from the transfer portal. Brian Allen, I don't think they've blocked him yet. I really don't. I'm starting to believe that Iowa is going to miss him. I can tell you that much. Iowa, Coach Ferentz was probably pissed that Brian Allen left, because that was going to be a big part of the Hawkeye defense. And that dude is an animal, right? And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about, I think, the offensive line. And when people think about the offensive line, I think a lot of people want them to see that this offensive line is just going to dominate right away. And I just don't think that's possible. I don't think that's realistic, because from a coach's perspective, I did this too when I was replacing starters and when I was trying to figure out who my best five was when I was coaching before I retired. I would try out different combinations. I would try different people, different places, different pairings, different looks across the front. I probably had a couple of guys that were solidified in the spots, but then I would shuffle the other guys around just to see what I had. Sometimes it'd be a disaster. Sometimes I would find something, and sometimes it'd be a disaster before I found something. And sometimes I just lucked into it and go, oh, this is pretty good. Now, I think that's what Vandy's doing right now with their offensive line. They're testing groupings and pairings and who's going to pair on the quick side with each other. Who are the best pairs on the quick side? Who are the best pairs on the strong side? Are some of the strong side guys good on the quick side? Or some of the quick side guys good on the strong side? Like, there's a bunch of different variables when you're judging the offensive line. And when you're judging the offensive line and when you're doing those things, that affects the run game. That affects the quarterback's ability to consistently perform. So it does throw some variables. It does throw a wrench into how you look at and how you view the offense. And I think despite all of that, despite all of those things, I thought the offensive line performed extremely well. I thought they did well. I thought the first group especially, I thought they did extremely well. Good job blocking on the perimeter. They provided time for the quarterbacks when Berlowitz and Curtis were in there. And it was a noticeable jump when you had that first group of offensive linemen. Now, I think you have three really standout tackles. I think Bo Johnson, Orion Irving, Clinton Azubuike are all starter-worthy tackles. Unfortunately, you can only start two of them, but whoever doesn't start will probably play a lot. Lyndon Cooper as a center is going to be incredible. Cade McConnell, obviously the incumbent starter at guard, one of the best guards in the league. So there's that. And then you just got the other guard spot with Kevo Wesley had a solid day. He didn't have an exceptional day, But he had a solid day. I would say he played. I would say he played well enough to keep his spot. But there's going to be some competition there. Primus, I think, was out of the freshman group, looked the best there. I think Skews looked good. I didn't think there was a whole lot of, I didn't think there was a whole lot of guys that you just say, that's a whiff, right? There's a lot of talent across the board. It's just getting them to play on the same page. That's always a challenge. It's that chemistry. It's that, understanding of, hey, you've got to have the trust of the guys standing or in the stands next to you on either side to be able to do the things you need to do. So lots of great things there. Walter Taylor's somebody that I think is rapidly moving up the charts. That dude's going to be a weapon, man. And when the light bulb fully comes on for him, he's going to be really, really dangerous. And in that, he's going to be a weapon that at some point is going to – he's going to make a huge place at some point in the season. I'm not sure when. It might be early. I mean, that dude is – when he's on the field and you get him on the field with Connor or you get him on the field with Spence or you get any sort of combination of that, or hell, go 13 personnel for Christ's sake with those three. I mean, you've got three really good tight ends in the mix there. So I'm excited about that group. Seti and MK didn't, they didn't go, but I was impressed with James L. Lassiter. I mean, the Vandy football social media account put a clip of him taking a screen to the house. I mean, that dude he just scores touchdowns, man. There's no other way to put it. That dude just gets the ball in his hands and gets across the goal line. That's just what he does. So, like I said, we are live, Locked On Vandy, spring practice, scrimmage notes, man. The linebackers, of course, also Austin Howard, Jamison Curtis. I think if they're in the game too, there's not going to be any drop off. That's something that's incredible as well. So lots of great things, but I'll continue to digest this and we'll continue to talk about that and talk about the scrimmage and talk about the direction of this team, what these reps mean, how it looks going into the spring game next weekend. And then of course, next weekend, what that looks like moving through the summer into training camp. So we're going to switch gears though, because there's some guys that there's a couple of guys that as basketball fans, you should be excited about. I think Vanderbilt is in the very, very short list of their places to transfer. So stay tuned for that. We'll talk about that. Mark Byington could have a couple of big fish on the hook. It's just a matter if he can reel them in or not. We'll talk about it next. It's Locked on Vandy. All right, Mazda's moving the game forward because for those who know, the score never tells the whole story. And who I want to talk about, who I want to highlight is, honestly, I want to highlight Brian Allen. Had a monster scrimmage. I don't think they blocked him yet. They didn't block him all day. He's a force off the edge. He's going to be a big, big playmaker. He's going to have a massive impact for this defense, and I'm very, very excited about that. So, but knowing that and is to also know there's more to these players than the highlights. It's the early morning runs, late night runs, constantly showing up for your squad on and off the field. And the all-new Mazda CX-5 moves the same way with more space to connect, a bold new design, and more intuitive technology so you can stay connected to the road and the position that you play. The all-new Mazda CX-5, more to move every side of you. Tax season. It's tax time. But for a lot of us, the old way of taxes, it's a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's a relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. So head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. The Everydayers Club. Go to lockedonvandy.supercast.com. Get there. Get Locked On Vandy ad-free with the Everydayer Club. Plus, members-only Discord access as well. Join at lockedonvandy.supercast.com for more information. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Thank you for making Locked On number one. Again, if you need a second listen on the network, Locked On SEC is the place to go. We talked spring practice, the scrimmage, number 2. The energy was great. It was a coach's dream. I don't know if I ever told you why, but here's why. There was plenty of plays on both sides of the ball. Defense had some big plays. Offense had some big plays. And there's plenty of stuff to work on afterwards. So hence a coach's dream. But we're going to switch gears. All right, we're going to switch gears to the basketball transfer portal because Mark Byington is on the verge of making a very nice run in the NCAA tournament. And with the thought that Tyler Tanner is legitimately considering coming back, which I think could be a reality, I'm not basing that off anything. It's just a gut feeling that I have. Based on that, based on the NIL dollars, based on the resources, based on what Vanderbilt has been able to put on the court the last 2 years, making the NCAA tournament as a 10 seed in year 1, a 5 seed in year 2, advancing to the second round in year 2. They just need a little bit of bump to take that next level. And there's a guy that's visiting that I looked at all the schools that he's visiting, SMU, Miami, Oregon. Vandy's definitely the best situation in that pack of schools. It's the best school for his skill set, and it's the best situation that he could get himself into. And that would be Bangot Dak, the center from Colorado. He's 1 year eligibility left. And watching his highlights was a treat because I saw that he was visiting. So I went and looked at his highlights. And I'm like, okay, if they get this guy's going to be unbelievable. And on the defensive end, he's a shot blocker. He can stretch and run the floor. He can shut you down. If you come in there, he can send it back, return to sender. He's also can stretch the floor off on the offensive side. He can score off the block. He can catch a lob and dunk it in transition. He did that against Montana State. I'm hoping there was a photographer down there and there was a poster because he can definitely do that, right? And his skill set as a big man is unique. Now, for the SEC, again, he's going to have to get bigger. He's going to have to get stronger. He's going to have to get faster because in the SEC, it's a more physical league than the Big 12 is. So what's going to happen with him is when he is down there on the inside, he's going to get banged around a little bit. And in doing that, that might take him off his game. So the first thing he needs to do is get in the Huber Center, get in the training program. What I love about the Huber Center is they have a freaking goal in the weight room. So like they can work on like post moves, they can work on different exercises in the weight room. So he could get a couple of post up shots up and then go do some bench press. Get a couple post shots up, then go do some squats. He can do some like backboard touches and try to improve his vertical. Like there's a lot of things he can do. I'm not a basketball strength trainer, so I don't know all the basketball specific exercises. But as I digress from that, Bangot Dak would be phenomenal for Mark Byington's squad because they need somebody that's athletic and can run the floor. They need a shot blocker that can do some scoring on the offensive side of the court as well. Because if you could just think about this, okay? And there's another guy that I think is on the hook too. You got Derek Dixon from North Carolina. He's a point guard that could play the two. He's kind of a combo guard. He can kind of do both. He got some increased chances as the season went on, became a starter for the Tar Heels, is also somebody that can create. Now, you get him and Tyler Tanner together, they're kind of the same player. So you have two combo guards that either of them could play point, either of them could play two. They both can score, they both can create. I think Dixon's probably a better distributor, which would probably put him at the point. But Tanner's obviously going to take the lead on scoring. But just think about either of those two guys running a two-man game with Dak, pick and roll, a lob, things like that, or you get in transition, you got a big 7-footer running the floor. He's been in the Huber Center. He's gained about 15 pounds of pure muscle. He's an absolute animal. You lob him one up, and boom, he jams it on you. Just think about that. Like a big man that can move, a big guy that can take the ball from the top of the key, drive to the rim. You got a big guy that can post up on the block. You got a big guy that if you're coming in, he's gonna swat you. He's gonna block your shot. So let me know what you guys think. What is the biggest need in the portal? To me, it's a presence in the paint, a guy that can score, rebound, and block. And hopefully, if you sign Dak, I'm not talking about Prescott. If you sign Bengot Dak, I think Mark Byington should schedule 40 games against Utah. Why do I say that? Because those were his best games last season. He had 2 games where he had double-doubles, scored 22 in Salt Lake City against the Utes. Had a double-double there. This dude's incredible. And so I think that would be a great, him and Dixon would be 2 great additions there. Makes your team very, very good. Now, the last thing that you need, and I don't know where Sharnowski is in his decision, but I think he's somebody that's on the hook that's also a forward that can run a little bit. So you got 2 bigger guys that can run with your guards. You just need a sharpshooter at that point. And you need some depth pieces, obviously. You need some guys that can come off the bench and do some of those things too. To go with Chandler Bing, to go with Jaden Leverett, to go with possibly A.K. Okirke coming back. But, I'll talk about some sharpshooters later as some emerge, as some targets emerge, and some guys are a little bit more imminent. But that would be if they could get Dak, if they could get Dixon. I think your last big need from a starting perspective is a sharpshooter, and then you just start building depth from there. And so that would be a great portal addition. So let's switch gears again. Let's go to baseball. Are you concerned with baseball? I am. Baseball's in big trouble. Pitching has been kind of a mess all year, but it's really starting to fall apart now. Are they in big trouble? Well, we'll discuss later. Next. Workplace chaos. Deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing in one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. You have less time, less stress, more results. And when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed right here on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator, play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, wrap it up here. Locked on Vandy. Thanks for making Locked on Vandy part of your day. Thank you for making Locked on number one. at Locked On Vandy if you want to follow along at home. If you want to like, subscribe, all that, make sure you do that right there at Locked On Vandy, wherever you find your podcast, or right here on YouTube. So, Vandy boys, I think we're in trouble. I think we have some things that are, I think it's falling apart. This was a series that started with so much promise. You win the first game 10-5, lots of momentum, and then it just falls apart. You score 11 runs in game 2 on Friday, and you lose because you just have an absolute pitching nightmare where you walk. I feel like you walked everybody. I don't think you gave up a lot of hits, but dang, if you walk enough people, one hit will do quite a bit of damage. So it's just been for the Vandy boys and for this pitching staff, between injuries and just guys that can't figure it out, it's been rough. And on a day where you have a chance to salvage the series, you fight all the way back to tie it up at 5, and then you just walk, pass ball, errors, and then a couple big hits from Oklahoma. Like, Oklahoma didn't play extremely well today, but you still lost, right? But you can't win if you only have 3 hits. There was a couple errors. There was 10 walks of the Sooners today. Brody Johnston had one of the hits. It was a 3-run homer. The Sooners gave you chances. They walked a bunch of people too. But it is, again, just a ton of walks. And it just continues to be a problem. And I'm not sure what you can do now. I don't think there's any drastic move that's going to help it. But like last night's game, Friday night's game, Oklahoma gets 5 runs, but Vanderbilt answers with 8 runs of their own, which is 2 hits. So both teams were walking. Oklahoma's manager got ejected. I mean, it was just an absolute mess. But again, the hitters, I think, can sense that. And I think sometimes the hitters start to press a little bit and you get yourself into trouble. And when you do that, I think even the best of hitting teams can create problems for themselves when they're trying to press and the bats just go cold, because I think sometimes the harder you try, the worse it gets. And when they're relaxed and they can hit and they know their pitching is going to take care of them, they hit really well. They hit really clutch. But 3 hits today is not going to cut it. But then again, the bullpen didn't help him out. Starting pitching didn't help him out. Today was just one of those lackluster games where you're just like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? And this could put this team in big-time jeopardy. And that long-time streak of postseason play is definitely in jeopardy. And that, it had to end sometime. It had to end at some point. But now what do you do this offseason? Because the evaluations in the portal, especially from the pitching staff, have been misses. I think Tim Corbin made the right hire in Jason Esposito. But you're stuck between a rock and a hard place because you see your program declining a little bit. You can't fire Tim Corbin. It'd be disrespectful to fire Tim Corbin for all that he's accomplished. I don't know that he's necessarily the problem. I mean, I wish he would do better in the portal. And he did on the offensive side of things. He hired Jason Esposito and got a couple additions from the portal, and they've been good. They've been a good hitting team. Not necessarily a clutch hitting team, but I think there's a lot more that goes into that. There's a lot of variables. But something's got to happen with pitching. You got to make a change the pitching coach? I don't know. I don't know what the answers are. I know there's a lot of people clamoring for Tim Corbin to retire. They're not going to fire him unless he does something wrong. So that's not going to happen. But a lot of people are calling for him to retire. I don't know if that's necessarily the answer, but pitching has got to improve. You've got too much talent for it not to. And, of course, you got some injuries too. So, again, that's another variable. But, I mean, you've got enough talent to where you can sustain a few injuries and not have too much of a step back. But you're having a step back. So where do you go? Where do you go from here? They've got to go on an absolute tear between now and the end of the season. And you've got a road series at Kentucky, which they're a scrappy, dirty, small ball team. You got Alabama, got Texas. And then you finish the season with Missouri and South Carolina. You cannot afford to lose those games. You couldn't afford to lose those games before this series. Now you really can't. So the pressure's on now. Now we're about to see what Vanderbilt can do with their backs against the wall, because their backs are probably firmly against the wall at this point. There's not a whole lot of daylight there. They're gonna have to kick a door down that's closing and closing fast. And they're going to have to start collecting a bunch of wins in a row. They can't lose any more midweeks. And essentially, they can't lose any more series. I think if you get a sweep somewhere, you're done. I feel like you'd be done if you get swept. But it's hanging on by a thread. That's where I'm going to leave it. They got some work to do, and they've got to. I don't know what that looks like, but this weekend against Kentucky, it'd be really nice if you could get some of those games back and get a sweep. But it's tough to win on the road, and Kentucky's a scrappy team. So that being said, it is possible. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's unlikely given the way that they're playing the last two SEC series. But it's not impossible. They can go on a run, but it's not likely. Something's got to be done. Something's got to change. I don't know. I don't know what you do. Shuffle the rotation. I don't know what you do. But got to do something. Got to do something with the pitching staff. Got to figure it out. It's time to figure it out. So, that being said, this is Locked On Vandy. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy part of your day. Thank you for making Locked On number one. Please like and subscribe at Locked On Vandy. We're on social media, wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every single day. We're going to continue to talk about spring. I'm going to do a more well thought out breakdown of what I saw and the observations that I made and what they mean for this Vanderbilt football team. We'll talk. I'm thinking there's a commitment on the hook here soon. So hopefully that'll happen for basketball. And then the Vandyboys have got to get it together. We'll talk about all of that as we move through the spring, into the summer, into the fall. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you keep this momentum alive. And until next time, anchor down. Peace.